Hey everyone, welcome back to English Vibes.
Hi, we're glad you're here today.
I'm John.
And I'm Maya. We're here to help you practice speaking English naturally.
If you enjoy our videos, don't forget to hit subscribe and give us a thumbs up.
Yes, please. It really helps us. So today we're talking about mental health, how to discuss it in everyday English.
That's right. We'll teach you vocabulary, phrases, and expressions for talking about mental health, emotions, and well-being.
This is such an important topic. Mental health awareness has grown so much in recent years, and being able to talk about it is essential.
Exactly. So let's get started. Maya, why is it important to be able to discuss mental health in English?
Well, mental health affects everyone. Whether you're supporting a friend, talking to a therapist, or just checking in with yourself, you need the right words.
Right. And mental health conversations are becoming more common and less stigmatized than before.
What does stigmatized mean?
Stigmatized means something is viewed negatively or with shame by society. For a long time, mental health was stigmatized. People were ashamed to talk about it.
Thankfully, that's changing. Now people are more open about mental health struggles. So let's start with basic vocabulary. How do you talk about how you're feeling emotionally?
The most basic question is, how are you feeling? Or how are you doing emotionally?
Common responses might be, I'm feeling good, I'm doing okay, or I'm not doing so well right now.
What if you want to be more specific about your emotions?
You can say, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling stressed.
Let's talk about positive mental health first. How do you describe feeling mentally well?
You might say, I'm in a good place mentally, or I'm feeling really balanced lately.
Or, my mental health has been good. Or, I'm doing well emotionally.
What about, I'm feeling centered, or I'm at peace?
Those are great. Centered means balanced and calm. At peace means you feel calm and content.
You could also say, I'm feeling positive about things, or I'm in a good headspace.
What does headspace mean?
Headspace is your mental or emotional state. I'm in a good headspace means your mental state is positive.
Now, let's discuss how to talk about struggling with mental health. This is sensitive, so we need to be gentle and respectful.
Absolutely. If you're struggling, you might say, I'm not doing so well mentally, or I've been struggling lately.
Or, I'm going through a tough time. Or, I'm having a hard time emotionally.
What if you want to be more specific?
You could say, I've been feeling really down. Or, I've been feeling low.
Down and low are gentle ways to describe sadness or depression without using heavy medical terms.
You might also say, I'm not feeling like myself lately, or something feels off.
What does feeling off mean?
Feeling off means something doesn't feel right, but you can't quite identify what it is. It's like being slightly unwell emotionally.
Now let's talk about specific mental health conditions. What's the difference between feeling sad and having depression?
That's important. Everyone feels sad sometimes. That's a normal emotion. Depression is different. It's a persistent mental health condition.
How do you talk about depression?
You might say, I have depression, or I'm dealing with depression, or I was diagnosed with depression.
It's important to note saying, I'm depressed can mean two things. It can mean you have the condition, or it can just mean you feel very sad right now.
Right, context matters. I'm feeling depressed today might just mean sad. I have clinical depression specifically refers to the medical condition.
What about anxiety? How do you talk about that?
Anxiety as an emotion versus an anxiety disorder are different. Everyone feels anxious sometimes.
You might say, I'm feeling anxious about the exam. That's normal nervousness.
But for the disorder, you'd say, I have anxiety, or I suffer from anxiety disorder, or I have generalized anxiety disorder.
What are some symptoms you might describe?
For anxiety, you might say, I'm having a panic attack, or my heart is racing, or I can't stop worrying.
Or I feel on edge, or I can't calm down.
What does on edge mean?
On edge means feeling nervous, tense, and easily startled, like you're on the edge of a cliff ready to fall.
Now let's discuss other mental health conditions. How do you talk about stress?
Stress is very common. You might say, I'm so stressed out, or I'm under a lot of stress right now.
Or I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I have too much on my plate.
What does too much on my plate mean?
It's an idiom meaning you have too many responsibilities or tasks to handle. Your metaphorical plate is overflowing.
You might also say, I'm burned out. What does that mean?
Burnout is extreme exhaustion from prolonged stress, especially work-related. I'm experiencing burnout means you're physically and emotionally exhausted.
How do you describe the symptoms of burnout?
You might say, I have no energy. I feel emotionally drained. I can't focus. Or I don't care about things I used to enjoy.
That sounds serious. What about other conditions like bipolar disorder or OCD?
For bipolar disorder, you might say, I have bipolar disorder, or I'm bipolar. This condition involves extreme mood swings.
You might describe mood episodes. I'm in a manic phase, or I'm experiencing a depressive episode.
What about OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder?
You'd say, I have OCD, or I struggle with OCD. You might describe symptoms. I have intrusive thoughts, or I feel compelled to check things repeatedly.
What are intrusive thoughts?
Intrusive thoughts are unwanted, distressing thoughts that pop into your mind involuntarily. They're a symptom of OCD and other conditions.
Now let's talk about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. How do you discuss this?
You might say, I have PTSD, or I'm dealing with PTSD from a past trauma.
You might describe symptoms. I'm having flashbacks, or certain things trigger my PTSD.
What does trigger mean in this context?
A trigger is something that causes a strong emotional reaction or brings back traumatic memories. Loud noises trigger my anxiety.
Now let's discuss how to talk about therapy and treatment. How do you say you're seeing a therapist?
You might say, I'm seeing a therapist, or I'm in therapy, or I have a therapist I talk to.
Is there a difference between therapist, counselor, psychologist, and psychiatrist?
Yes, a therapist or counselor provides talk therapy. A psychologist has a doctoral degree and does therapy and testing. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who can prescribe medication.
So you might say, I see a psychologist for therapy, or I see a psychiatrist for medication management.
How do you talk about going to therapy sessions?
I have therapy once a week, or I'm going to my therapy appointment, or I have a session tomorrow.
What if someone asks what therapy is like?
You might say, I talk through my problems with my therapist, or therapy helps me process my emotions, or my therapist gives me tools to cope.
What does cope mean?
To cope means to deal with and handle difficult situations or emotions. Coping mechanisms or coping strategies are methods you use to manage stress or difficult feelings.
What are some common coping strategies people might mention?
You might say, I practice meditation to cope with stress, or exercise helps me cope, or I journal to process my emotions. Other coping strategies include I do breathing exercises, I take walks in nature, I call a friend, or I practice mindfulness.
What's mindfulness?
Mindfulness is the practice of being present and aware in the current moment without judgment. I practice mindfulness meditation every morning.
Now let's talk about medication. How do you discuss mental health medication?
You might say, I take medication for my depression, or I'm on antidepressants, or my doctor prescribed anxiety medication.
What are antidepressants?
Antidepressants are medications used to treat depression and sometimes anxiety. Common types include SSRIs and SNRIs.
You might say, I started taking medication a few months ago, or my medication is really helping.
Or if you're having issues, I'm experiencing side effects, or this medication isn't working for me, or we're adjusting my dosage.
What does dosage mean?
Dosage is the amount of medication you take. My doctor increased my dosage means they raised the amount.
What if you're against medication?
You might say, I prefer to manage my mental health without medication, or I'm trying therapy first before considering medication.
That's a personal choice. Now let's discuss how to check in on someone's mental health. How do you ask someone how they're doing?
A simple, how are you doing, works. But for mental health specifically, you might ask, how are you feeling emotionally?
Or how's your mental health been lately? Or how are you holding up?
What does holding up mean?
Holding up means coping or managing during a difficult time. How are you holding up shows concern during a challenging period.
You could also ask, are you okay? Or is everything all right? Or you seem down. Want to talk about it?
What if you notice someone seems off?
You might say, I've noticed you seem stressed lately. Is everything okay? Or you haven't seemed like yourself. Want to talk?
That shows you care and you're paying attention. How should someone respond if they're struggling?
They might say, actually, I'm not doing great. Or I've been better, to be honest. Or I'm going through some stuff right now.
What if they don't want to talk about it?
They might say, I appreciate you asking, but I'm not ready to talk about it. Or I'm okay, just dealing with some things privately.
And that's perfectly fine. Everyone has the right to privacy. How do you offer support?
You might say, I'm here if you need to talk. Or let me know if there's anything I can do. Or I'm here to listen, no judgment.
What does no judgment mean?
It means you won't criticize or think negatively about them for what they share. It creates a safe space for opening up.
You could also say, you're not alone in this, or I care about you and want to help.
What if someone needs professional help? How do you suggest that sensitively?
You could say, have you considered talking to a professional? Or it might help to talk to a therapist about this.
Or, there's no shame in getting help. Would you like me to help you find a therapist?
What if it's urgent and you're worried about someone's safety?
If you think someone might hurt themselves, you need to be direct. Are you having thoughts of hurting yourself? Or, I'm worried about your safety.
You might say, I think we should call a crisis helpline together. Or, can I take you to the emergency room?
In the US, the suicide prevention hotline is 988. In the UK, it's Samaritans at 116 123. Every country has resources.
Never hesitate to get help if someone is in crisis. It's better to overreact than to ignore warning signs.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about self-care language. What is self-care?
Self-care means activities and practices you do to maintain your physical and mental health. It's taking care of yourself.
How do you talk about practicing self-care?
You might say, I'm prioritizing self-care, or I'm taking time for self-care today, or self-care is important to me.
What are examples of self-care activities?
I'm taking a mental health day. I'm setting boundaries. I'm saying no to protect my energy. I'm unplugging from social media.
What's a mental health day?
A mental health day is when you take a day off work or school to rest and recharge mentally. I'm taking a mental health day tomorrow.
Other self-care phrases? I'm being gentle with myself. I'm giving myself permission to rest. Or I'm listening to what my body needs.
What does being gentle with yourself mean?
It means being kind and forgiving to yourself, not being too harsh or critical, treating yourself with compassion.
Now let's discuss boundaries. What are boundaries in mental health?
Boundaries are limits you set to protect your mental health and energy. They define what you will and won't accept.
How do you talk about setting boundaries?
You might say, I'm setting boundaries with my family, or I need to establish better boundaries at work.
Or I'm learning to say no, or I can't take on any more right now.
What if someone crosses your boundaries?
You might say, that crosses a boundary for me, or I'm not comfortable with that, or I need you to respect my boundaries.
Now let's talk about describing difficult emotions. How do you express feeling overwhelmed?
I'm overwhelmed is straightforward. You might add, I feel like I'm drowning, or it's all too much right now.
What about feeling hopeless?
You might say, I'm feeling hopeless, or I can't see a way out, or nothing seems to help.
If someone says they feel hopeless, that's serious. It might indicate depression or suicidal thoughts.
How do you describe feeling numb emotionally?
I feel numb, or I don't feel anything, or I'm emotionally shut down.
What does feeling numb mean?
Emotional numbness is when you can't feel emotions at all, neither positive nor negative. It's often a symptom of depression or trauma.
How do you describe mood swings?
My mood is all over the place, or I'm experiencing mood swings, or I went from happy to sad really quickly.
What about feeling irritable?
I'm feeling really irritable, or everything is annoying me, or I'm easily frustrated today.
Now let's discuss positive mental health practices. How do you talk about improving your mental health?
I'm working on my mental health, or I'm in a better place mentally than I was, or my mental health has improved.
What specific practices might you mention?
I'm seeing a therapist regularly. I started medication and it's helping. I'm exercising more. I'm eating better.
Or I'm getting enough sleep. I'm spending time in nature. I'm connecting with friends. I'm limiting social media.
How do you talk about recovery?
I'm in recovery. Or I'm recovering from depression. Or my mental health is on an upward trend.
What does upward trend mean?
An upward trend means things are improving or getting better over time. The opposite would be downward trend. You might say, I've come a long way, or I'm proud of my progress, or therapy has really helped me grow.
Now let's discuss workplace mental health. How do you talk about mental health at work?
This is tricky because workplaces vary. You might say to your boss, I need a mental health day, or I'm dealing with some personal health issues.
You don't have to disclose specific details. You could say, I'm managing a health condition without specifying its mental health.
What if work is affecting your mental health?
You might say, work has been really stressful lately, or I'm feeling burned out from my workload.
Or I need to discuss my work-life balance, or the pressure at work is affecting my well-being.
How do you talk about recovery?
I'm in recovery, or I'm recovering from depression, or my mental health is on an upward trend.
What does upward trend mean?
An upward trend means things are improving or getting better over time. The opposite would be downward trend. You might say, I've come a long way, or I'm proud of my progress, or therapy has really helped me grow.
Now let's discuss how to talk about your own mental health journey. How do you share your experience?
You might say, I've struggled with anxiety for years, or I was diagnosed with depression in college.
Or I've been in therapy on and off for a while. Or mental health has been a journey for me.
What if you're newly diagnosed?
You might say, I was recently diagnosed with this, or I'm still learning about my diagnosis, or I'm figuring out what works for me.
How do you talk about what helps you?
Therapy has been a game changer for me, or medication really helps me function, or exercise is crucial for my mental health.
What does game changer mean?
A game changer is something that significantly improves a situation. Therapy was a game changer means it made a huge positive difference.
Now, let's discuss language to avoid. What shouldn't you say about mental health?
Don't minimize someone's feelings. Just think positive, or others have it worse, or just get over it.
Don't use mental health terms casually. I'm so OCD about cleaning when you don't have OCD, or this weather is so bipolar.
Don't blame the person. It's all in your head, or you're just not trying hard enough, or you're being too sensitive.
Mental illness is invisible. You can't tell by looking at someone what they're going through internally.
Now, let's talk about cultural differences in discussing mental health. Does this vary by culture?
Absolutely. In some cultures, mental health is openly discussed. In others, it's very taboo.
What's taboo?
Taboo means forbidden or unacceptable to discuss. In some cultures, mental health is taboo. People don't talk about it.
Some cultures emphasize physical health over mental health or view mental illness as weakness or shame.
It's important to be culturally sensitive. If someone comes from a culture where mental health isn't discussed, they might need extra support opening up.
Language barriers matter too. Mental health vocabulary can be complex even for native speakers.
Now, let's do some practice scenarios. Maya, imagine you're checking in on a friend who seems down.
Hey, I've noticed you've seemed a bit off lately. Is everything okay? I'm here if you want to talk.
Thanks for noticing. Honestly, I've been struggling a bit with anxiety. Work has been really stressful.
I'm sorry you're going through that. Have you been able to talk to anyone about it, like a therapist?
Not yet, but I've been thinking about it. I just don't know where to start.
I can help you look for therapists if you want. There's no shame in getting help. Taking care of your mental health is important.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. It helps to talk about it.
Great practice. Now let's try another scenario. John, imagine you're talking to your boss about needing time off.
I wanted to talk to you about taking some time off. I'm dealing with some health issues and need to focus on my well-being.
Of course, take the time you need. Do you need a few days or longer?
I think a week would help me reset. I also wanted to discuss my workload when I return. I've been feeling overwhelmed.
Absolutely. Let's schedule a meeting when you're back to talk about that. Your health comes first.
Perfect. That shows how to handle it professionally without oversharing.
Okay, we've covered so much. Let's do our vocabulary review.
Yes, let's explain all the important mental health terms.
First word, mental health. Mental health is your emotional, psychological, and social well-being.
I'm prioritizing my mental health. Or mental health is just as important as physical health.
Mental health exists on a spectrum. Everyone has mental health, just like everyone has physical health.
Next word, depression. Depression is a mental health condition characterized by persistent sadness, loss of interest, and other symptoms.
I have depression, or I was diagnosed with clinical depression.
Depression is more than just feeling sad. It's a medical condition that often requires treatment.
Next is anxiety. Anxiety is a mental health condition involving excessive worry, fear, and nervousness.
I have generalized anxiety disorder, or my anxiety has been really bad lately.
Everyone feels anxious sometimes, but anxiety disorder is persistent and interferes with daily life.
Next word, therapy. Therapy is professional treatment for mental health issues through talking and other techniques.
I'm in therapy, or therapy has really helped me, or I see a therapist weekly.
Therapy provides a safe space to process emotions and develop coping strategies.
Next is stigma. Stigma is negative attitudes and discrimination toward people with mental health conditions.
There's still stigma around mental illness, or we need to reduce the stigma.
Stigma prevents people from seeking help because they fear judgment.
Next word, trigger. A trigger is something that causes a strong emotional reaction or brings back difficult memories.
Loud noises trigger my anxiety, or certain topics are triggering for me.
Triggers are personal. What triggers one person might not affect another.
Next is coping. Coping means dealing with and managing difficult situations or emotions.
I'm coping with stress through exercise, or I need healthier coping mechanisms.
Healthy coping strategies include exercise, meditation, talking to friends, or creative activities.
Next word, burnout. Burnout is extreme physical and emotional exhaustion from prolonged stress.
I'm experiencing burnout at work, or I'm completely burned out.
Burnout often requires significant rest and lifestyle changes to recover.
Next is self-care. Self-care means activities and practices to maintain your physical and mental health.
I'm practicing self-care this weekend, or self-care isn't selfish.
Self-care includes rest, hobbies, exercise, healthy eating, and setting boundaries.
Last word, recovery. Recovery is the process of getting better from mental illness or addiction.
I'm in recovery from depression, or recovery is a journey, not a destination.
Recovery isn't linear. There are ups and downs, but overall, improvement over time.
So we learned mental health, depression, anxiety, therapy, stigma, trigger, coping, burnout, self-care, and recovery.
These are 10 essential words for discussing mental health in English.
Remember, talking about mental health is brave and important. You're not alone if you're struggling.
If you're in crisis, please reach out for help. There are resources available.
Now it's your turn. We have a question for you.
Write in the comments, what's one self-care activity that helps your mental health?
Is it exercise, reading, spending time in nature, talking to friends?
Tell us in the comments. We love hearing from you.
And remember, it's okay to not be okay. Seeking help is a sign of strength.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.
And turn on notifications so you never miss a video.
Keep practicing your English every day. You're doing amazing.
Take care of your mental health. It matters.
See you in the next video.
Goodbye, everyone. Be kind to yourself and others. Quick vocabulary review. 1. Mental health. Emotional, psychological, and social well-being. 2. Depression. Condition with persistent sadness and loss of interest. 3. Anxiety. Condition involving excessive worry and fear. 4. Therapy. Professional treatment through talking and techniques. 5. Stigma. Negative attitudes toward mental health conditions. 6. Trigger. Something causing strong emotional reactions. 7. Coping. Dealing with and managing difficult emotions. 8. Burnout. Extreme exhaustion from prolonged stress. 9. Self-care. Practices to maintain physical and mental health. And 10. Recovery. The process of getting better from mental illness.